So this is a $1 billion unicorn, which has basically turned out to be a fraud. These guys tried to do it. They raised $200 million from SoftBank, who famously had the WeWork fiasco as well. And it was shut down basically after it was revealed that 95% of its users were fake bots. The IRL team once boasted nearly a 400% growth over 15 months. However, of course, it turned out to be a fraud. I think when something is too good to be true, then perhaps it often is. There's no word yet, because I think the founders, the leaders, I think they stepped aside a few months before this might have happened. So I don't know if anyone's gone to prison yet. I don't know if there's been charges filed or anything like that. This story was actually sent to me on Threads, believe it or not. So the new platform on Zuck's end. So if you do want to send us clips on Threads, we have a platform there as well where the handle will be on the screen. You can send us footage on there. But what are your views, chaps, on IRL? Yes, IRL.
Yeah, I wasn't familiar with this story until you sent it to me, Alfie. And my reaction was 4-letter words initially because I just couldn't believe the numbers involved.
Yeah, crazy.
But I stopped and thought about it and thought, well, in a way, these startups are kind of incentivized for that as an option.
Yeah.
And I know free money is kind of dried up now, but
for now, I mean, give it a few months and it will give it back.
I couldn't help but thinking about the Theranos case because there seem to be some similarities there, and I'd really like to know whether or not they did this deliberately or they just got caught in having to lie because they had a lie and they had to build on top of the lie.
Yeah. I mean, that's often how these things escalate, right? It starts like a really, really small white lie, and then before long you're, farming out bots to, I don't know, wherever, some offshore country that was just creating fake accounts and signing up to your app all day, which is like such a 2023 thing to think about. Like people, their job is just to make accounts, sign up, and then make a new one. But that's you can't even get bots to make the accounts a lot of the time because of the real person capture and authentication. So you actually need people doing this a lot of the time. Which is wild, but you're right. When you raise a lot of money to the point where they were like a unicorn, it's like $1 billion valuation. You have to show numbers to the investors. You have to show results. Otherwise, you look terrible, and your career could be over. So faking it till you're making it. I understand where they're coming. It's not something I'd personally ever do. I couldn't bring myself to do it, but I get it. Like they would. That they do this with the hope that they eventually would become successful elsewhere, and then it wouldn't really matter. That was Elizabeth Holmes's kind of theory with Theranos. She really believed. I think she deluded herself to the point where she believed she could actually make this work. Take a drop of blood and figure out all the problems with you and everything. And obviously it didn't have that effect. And thankfully, this is not that. This is like a meetup app. Right, she was like messing with lives which could kill people. So different worlds. But what's your take here on the story?
I think the first thing is SoftBank really needs to figure out their due diligence on how.
It's happened a few times now.
They've got a bit of mileage, haven't they?
Definitely. This is like even with established platforms, bot detection is a hard problem, right? Like say Amazon, Facebook, Twitter. Detecting what are real accounts and what are not is a difficult thing. So, and as you said that people are incentivized to inflate these numbers as well. So I'm not sure what happened here exactly, whether they intentionally planned it or just because it's a new social media, a lot of bots just joined in and they tweak their algorithm to show it as growth rather than actual bot detection.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, I'm not sure about what exactly happened, whether there was a malicious intent or not, but SEC is investigating them, so they would probably get to the bottom of this. But it's quite difficult just to verify whether something is a bot or not. And if the actual company really wants to fake bots or inflate numbers, they could potentially do that if they don't have any monetization plan, because that's where bot versus real customers would actually show up. If there is no monetization plan, then you can just inflate any numbers and you can fake any sort of bots. But
X is the perfect example of that with the verification, right? I mean, like Twitter is got more bots than anything, I imagine. And if you ask those bots to pay to use a platform, they're not going to do it. I mean, like unless it's like a psyop, like a political campaign trying to convert people to a certain way of thinking. So I think you're absolutely right. That is something that the companies need to keep in mind. It'll be interesting to see if they were faking the daily active users as well, because that's like really what apps get measured on in my experience, like how many people are actually using it every single day, as opposed to just sign-ups. Because if you look at sign-ups, like I'm sure Twitter or Facebook or whatever will be like the number one like discarded product in the world, where people have signed up and then never you like logged back in again. There'll be so many accounts on all those social media platforms, but still they're the most successful companies in the world because of the daily active users, which is really what happens. I wonder if like these bots are like logging in daily to kind of like trick the system, but such a weird world that we're living in, that like stuff that it's actually happening. SoftBank, you mentioned around a few mishaps really. Masayoshi Son, I think I'm pronouncing it right, is the founder CEO. So he created like the Vision Fund, which was his goal of like betting on like futuristic technologies. I don't know if this was part of that investment fund or if it was a different, kind of like VC package, but he had like the famous WeWork fiasco a couple of years ago. I don't even know if they're still involved in WeWork anymore.
Don't know.
No. I know that they. I heard a story about the founder. I don't know if this is true. It was told me about by a really well-known CTO in London. But he said that they actually had an opportunity to invest in Amazon very early on, and they passed on it. Which, if he had made the investment, he'd be the richest person in the history of the world. I don't know if that's true, but he seems to like make some like really genius moves with investing, but also some absolutely terrible moves as well. I guess that kind of goes back to what you were saying earlier about like those like like the Elon and then the Zucks of the world. How like they're crazy on one hand, but they can build amazing things on the other side.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, interesting one to see what will happen with this. Do you think people will end up going to jail like over this? Because it is fraud at the end of the day. I mean, I know it's white collar fraud. It's not quite Elizabeth Holmes level. It's not quite FTX where you're messing around with people's money. I mean, it's like this meetup event, but still you're messing around with the investors' money at the end of the day, and that's still people. Do you think people could go to jail over faking bots and this sort of thing? What do you think, Mahir?
Yeah, 100%. Because if somebody really rich and powerful is the one who's cheated, the person who cheated them or committed fraud against them, they would face the consequences.
Even more so, right? If
Even more
it's a
so,
rich guy
yeah.
that you're going against. What do you think, Robert?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. The US financial system is very, very unforgiving of somebody who plays fast and loose with other people's money.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be interesting to see like FTX. I mean, he's not in jail yet, is he? I mean, he's like...
No, I think he's hiding out in the Bahamas or something still.
Yeah, I mean, it's wild. Yeah, so sometimes, even Elizabeth Holmes, she only just went to prison recently. I mean, that was ages ago. She had kids and had a life for ages. And then some people say the kids were a ploy not to go to jail. But I don't know. I won't go there. She's an interesting woman. That's all I'd say on her anyway.